I don't often hear advisors say that their startups are making the best use of them. But at the same time, I can't think of too many times where an advisor literally effectively gets fired or let go. I feel like founders often give advisor equity away and just kind of it's a lot of times it's small and they sort of let it go. Is there a value to sort of good hygiene of just, if something's not working out, actually cutting off, not having all these extra people on your cap table who like didn't actually do anything for the company? Like, what's a reason to like actually stay on top of this and to make sure that like if you're giving equity away, the person's actually earning or you're getting value? Or should I just not sweat it because it's 10 basis points?
No, I think equity is expensive. I mean, if you think about that kind of equity from an employee standpoint, that's valuable. If it's valuable to you, it's valuable to your potential employee, and it's typically comparable or higher to an employee equity depending on the stage or value. And therefore I think the problem more often tends to be out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, you're not actually leveraging enough. So I think regular cadence and putting a discipline to engagement, contract, objectives, timelines, milestones, typical project management stuff that kind of ensures the founding team is also extracting the value once it's there, because that's so many directions a founder gets pulled in and easy to kind of lose track of. It just boils down to have you put in the effort, and if you're putting in the effort and it's not working, that's when the mutual termination by mutual consent thing comes up, because now you're on top of this. Usually the advice not getting fired piece that you talked about is because you haven't put in enough into the relationship or into the engagement or put some discipline to it, and therefore you feel there's inadequate. You haven't inadequate data to have that discussion on this is not working out. But I think equity is expensive. We manage cap tables for in our business. Equity is for with a founder's hat on, equity is an expensive, scarce resource. So you need to, I think, something you can that's a lot of equity from a potential full-time hire perspective.
I think it's interesting that founders who go out and fundraise and try and convince VCs that this equity is going to be incredibly valuable don't always think of it that way when handing it out. To a VC, they say the equity is really valuable. But the way they operate their business, they act like cash is the only valuable thing. And the equity is just all sort of, fictitious until it becomes real.
Yeah, useful to have that reminder in some form. And how would I think about this quantum of equity if I was talking to a VC? That's a good cheat code to ensure you're being judicious about the equity you give and the choice of advisors you make. In fact, I've seen the note you put out ahead of this discussion, and I was going through it, and I was a banker by profession before doing this. In fact, from a early stage founder's perspective, in all the archetypes that we discussed early on, the worst there is someone who says, I'll help you get a fundraise done. I think that is.
And why is that?
I was an M&A banker, fundraising expert, working alongside founders in my past life, and that's always useful once you're a large company, a Series B plus. That's when your time is better spent in the business, and fundraise is an additional activity. For the early stage founder, there's almost like this adverse selection type of view that